All right. All right, y'all. I just cleaned up my truck. Figure I'd do that before I put a normal face on again. And I'm feeling better, but man, I am not feeling amazing yet. But wanted to get back into it, man. Hey, those that those that push through it, you know what I mean? That's where you get where you're going. So, um I want to go ahead and do this video in the idea of pushing through, kind of talk about some of my goals. I am again gonna do a video about everything that happens when you do your own authority at Prime. I want to make that more informational than more of like a diary blog or whatever it is you might call it. But I ain't even start that yet, man. I got some clips and stuff, but I got hit with this sickness. But so I wanted to do this goals thing. And not I ain't look, I ain't trying to be Mr. Altruistic or whatever. I just I know it's something that a lot of the guys say, almost any of the YouTubers for Prime or probably any trucking channel will say, if you're going into trucking, come with a plan, make goals. Um, so one of my goals, well, my first goal, when I came to Prime was get my CDL. Second goal was pay off my truck. Third goal was get my own authority. So now I wanted to kind of talk about where I'm going to go now and kind of use that as, hey, not just uh, as my way of kind of showing you what it means to me when I said come in with the plan. So, uh, not let's see how we break this down. So, uh, I was part of a program back in my home, Edison neighborhood, Kalamazoo. Love you, Edison. Um, uh, we had a program called Edison Ducks in a Row that we were trying to make. So, to keep a lot of drama and a lot of life stuff really short, Kalamazoo is the halfway point between Detroit and international border and Chicago. So you get mad traffic. If anybody knows about the I-94 corridor, that's a huge trafficking corridor as well. And they stop in Kalamazoo, Battle Creek. Benton Harbor gets pretty rough too. These places all have smaller police forces that can't keep up with the gangs. So you would have gangs from Chicago come in and flip a couple thousand in front of some kids. And they start as early as I the earliest I know of was 11. Um, we, a lot of the kids that eat some bullets in Edison, they'd be 13, 15, 18. Uh, they start them young, and they grab them and they take them back to Chicago if the kids say yes, and then they start them out. Well, at least when I was doing the program, they would start them out on these fake iPhones. And the kids go flip iPhones, kind of like a scouting talent, see what they got. And if they're good, they start moving some more serious traffic. Uh, so anyway, uh, I have never been in a gang. I ain't never done any of that. But I wanted to do something with that because I play ball with all the kids in my neighborhood. Not so much these days, obviously, but so I would watch a whole bunch of these kids get sucked in and get out. So um, everyone talks about gun safety, gun violence. I'm not gonna, like I said, I was in politics also, adjacent to a lot of these things, but I ain't trying to be political. I wanted a result, not a moment on TV. So I was also in healthcare and social work, and my most useful tool for therapy were animals. Um, so what happened when I was actually I worked with kids in mental health before I was into trucking and before COVID. And so I worked with uh, these kids, and I would do things like take them to duck and chicken farms, goat farms, places where they could kind of learn something functional about food and where it comes from, but also just get time with animals. And it was a really low pressure, no pressure on the kids, just a nice kind of therapeutic. Hey, I'm not going to be Mr. Psychology. This is just a way for you to chill out. And it was more about more than a farming initiative. It was more about a therapy initiative. It was just under the guise of farming because that's how you get a lot of the grants and stuff back then. So, so 20 really 2014 is probably where it took off. We had a board, and a lot of that board didn't make it. We'll just keep this quick. Um, I'm actually, out of the four of us that started the nonprofit, I was the oldest, and I'm the only one left alive. So uh, so one of the things that I have been left with being the sole survivor of that program, is seeing it come to fruition for the other three board members who did not. One of them very directly from gun violence, uh, one of them from an oil spill that happened, and one of them from the pharmaceutical industry, just letting us get heroin out like candy. But anyway, so where I will probably try to go next is I want to try to do something unique and new in trucking. I've tried to look around for it, and maybe this exists, but after I've ran my own authority for a little bit, I want to actually make a nonprofit trucking company. So it's very hard to get grants. I imagine it will not be any easier to get grants in the coming years. Um, at least not for what I'm trying to do. So I want to use trucking. Now that I've got everything established, I want to use trucking to uh, create a revenue mechanism for this program, and get this program continued. Uh, so I want to learn how to run my own authority in a normal LLC structure, and then at the next point where I feel like I understand everything and I know what kind of business options are possible, I want to look at either a nonprofit incorporation or an L3C incorporation, which is something you can do in Michigan. Both of these are either nonprofit or low tier profit, which means you don't have the same need to get to the green line every year. If you do an L3C, it's not about it's not about profit as much as it's about output of whatever it is that your company's trying to do. So either one of those would work. And so that's what I want to do with trucking. Uh, that's always been a long-term goal of mine. It's a goal that I need to finish, um, and that's what I want to do. So to tell you a little bit about this program, uh, it uses something, and hey, Shamarcus and Lyle, a couple people in Prime, I've told you about this kind of house, so I'm gonna give you a breakdown. And again, I mention this every time too. It has the worst fucking name ever. The structure I want to build for the program is something called an Earthship. I already have the plans. Um, Essentially, what you do is you build the foundation of the house using recycled tires and doing ram dirt technology, which is stack, 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 slightly overlapped, makes a nice wall. Um, you do that. You do ram tire technology, so you're slamming the soil down. This is not going to be used for anything. So you can actually put it together. You can use rocks. You can use plastics. Some plastics you got to be really careful. Maybe not plastic so much, but uh, there you don't have to focus so much on the fill dirt. You just got to make sure that it's set hard. Uh, Once you build the foundation using this ram tire technology, there are ways that you encase the house, and you do the layout. You set it on kind of an angle. If the sun is coming up, say the sun is coming up here, then the face of the house is kind of going to be offset to the side. You set solar panels out. Because of the way you're doing the foundation, because of the way you do the layout of the house, and the way the house is built, it ends up actually not needing any energy. There are some of them that are in Alberta, Canada, and they don't need to have a heating unit. And in the summertime, you can get an AC unit, but because it's kind of like an in-ground dwelling, even though it's not necessarily, the temperate zones stay naturally very close. Uh, you put solar panels on the top for electricity. Uh, Depending on what kind of water and contamination you're looking at, you can even set it to where the roof will do runoff, and you can set plants in different areas of the house to filter the water. Um, it's actually so powerful that it's zone compliant in every city. When I gave it to my city planner, um, he does not like me, and he could not find a way to shut it down. so, um, uh, so it's a really interesting, really unique thing. So if you ever have a chance, go look at it. But I wanted to do that. My knowledge and my bonding with all the kids in my neighborhood was through basketball. So we wanted to make a basketball court that was made of uh, recycled tire. Also, you can lay concrete, and for places like Michigan that have very up and down temperatures, maybe Florida now too. Who knows the way this shit's going? But it allows the court to endure for a really long time, and it's also much safer on uh, falls and things like that than regular asphalt. Although, I mean, there's something kind of cool about that court on asphalt. Just the nostalgia of it. Away from the house, the whole idea would be to get ducks, chickens, and possibly a baby goat or two, depending on what you're dealing with for your city zoning, things like that, and what the city zoning will allow. Um, but it would run on then going to uh, food banks and um, grocery stores and I was working with the EPA at the time about this as well, and we would be taking expired food that would not be safe for humans, but would still be safe for animals. And the idea would be that we would be showing kids all these different ways of recycling and ways of using things around you to make something. That's why you have a house built out of tires. And um, this would let the kids in the neighborhood, which is a distressed neighborhood, shit happens in Edison. A lot of shit happens in Edison. Um, and this would allow the kids in the neighborhood to just kind of do something different, refreshing, unique. Uh, Allow them to we'd have these stations where it was very imperative that they have good sanitation, so they clean their hands after they give the food away, and short window on a lot of the food. But quite honestly, when the program was up and running for a short time, so many kids came that we never had to really throw food away at any point. I mean, the birds would eat it. Um, it was it was it was a really fun program. Um, it was amazing to see some kids that you just wouldn't think of, like a duck hanging out in the hood being a thing, but it was a really incredible experience to watch the kids in the neighborhood just kind of get a place. And some of the kids wouldn't even really talk to us so much. They'd just go in there. And now if the kids were too rowdy with the birds, they couldn't go in to the pens with the birds. And then we there were safeguards in place for what was going to happen with the kids and the birds, but most of the time we had more baby level birds. And some of the kids would just go in there and they had their duck and they'd come in every day and they'd hang out with their duck and they'd feed it and they'd just sit there and, you know, I'm not going to talk about some of the things that we would hear, but, the kids would open up to us that maybe in case management, which I may or may not have been aware of because of the work I did, that we were getting breakthroughs that the case management in Kalamazoo was not. So that's still a big deal to me. It's still something I want to do. I want to make that program where these kids can see this. Unfortunately, like I said, the zoning in Kalamazoo didn't like me so much. So when we started having losses, they took that as an opportunity to shut the program down because I didn't have enough members. That's not a part of this. But I'm kind of speeding through some of it, but it's not really so much an in-depth thing about what this program is. It's just I want to show you guys, like, when I hear some of these guys talk about what's your plan, I just wanted to kind of do an example of, like, well, this is my plan. This is actually what I want to try to do with this. And I did try to look for a trucking example where there's a nonprofit or something like that. I haven't found one, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So if anybody does know of a nonprofit trucking organization, I'd be really interested to see what the nuts and bolts are of putting that together, what that looks like for the taxes you're responsible for and things like that. And so anyway, I thought this was a cool opportunity to kind of just talk about something a little bit different. Now outside of that goal, after I inevitably at some point finish these 2 videos about leading up to going off of Prime's authority and then going to the terminal, those 2 videos after that, I've kind of asked myself, like, what do I want to do with this channel? I'm slowly teaching my wife to drive, so that'll be fun, but that's not going to be a trucker thing for a while. She's still learning to drive a car. So one of the other thing I was thinking is, and I've asked this to a lot of YouTubers, where do you go for really good resources? You can watch videos, but I really thought about maybe trying to use this channel differently to get, I guess you would call, put out some of those surveys they do on YouTube and on Facebook and a couple of these places and say, like, what's the best ELD? What are the 5 most important things you think you should have on your truck? What do you look for when you go to fuel up? What's important to you? For DEF, do you use the boxes or do you use the fuel in the aisle, and why? And just kind of do these things where maybe some of us have questions, especially the newer you are, you might have more questions, and just come up with questions, kind of field those questions for a week or so, and then once those are generated and populated, make a video about what the answers are and kind of give some shout outs and do some things like that. So none of this is really for profit. I want to do something different. I do a dedicated route, so it can get really, really boring if I tell you guys where I'm going. Hey, I'm going back to Kalamazoo. Hey, I'm going up to Reed City. Hey, I'm going to Murfreesboro. Hey, I'm going back to Kalamazoo again. That there's no value in that, I don't think. But I think there's a value to do something like that. So let me know what y'all think. And this is already 20 minutes, and I am tired, and my wife is making me breakfast, and I need to look like I'm part of society instead of Grizzly Adams. So uh, just wanted to put a video out because, man, I've been not been feeling it. So, all right, man, I'll catch you guys around. Thanks. Bye.